Welcome to the FMC Lounge, everyone. I'm your host, Joe for Show, and in this video, we'll be going over the new Descendant Harris that got introduced with Season 3.2. I'll be going over multiple builds, my thoughts about Harris, and the recent nerf that she just got after the recent update, which is kind of crazy that she kind of got a nerf. It was sort of a bug that they changed, but it kind of nerfed her damage output, which I'll go over in a little bit and everything. But y'all can do me a favor, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Would help with the YouTube algorithm. I'd appreciate it a lot. Now, enough of the yapping. Let's jump straight into the video. Now, because Harris is a new Descendant, I am going to break down all her abilities and everything for y'all. So, first ability is her Crushing Charge. It's basically a battering ram attack, and you have about 6 stacks of it, so you could use it 6 times, and then you're gonna have to wait for your cooldown timer. The damage is about 2,000. The base damage is 2,000. Your second strike, the base damage is the same, and your third strike, it actually gets an increase. As you can see, it goes up by almost 2,000. For your second ability, it is another clash type, and this one, it gives you like 3 different methods that you could do. And what I mean by method is when you use your second ability, your first, your third, and your fourth ability will be a different action that you're going to be able to do, which you're seeing the gameplay right now. So look at my ability icons, right? Look at them after I use my second ability. See how the 3 different icons now? So basically each one gives you a different action. So when we use our second ability and use our first ability, we slam straight into the ground. When you use your second ability and use the third ability, you go straight forward like a dart, as you can see right here. And then when you use your second ability and then use your fourth ability, it goes straight down forward. This has a 4,000 base damage. It stuns enemies for 3 seconds, and it also gives you 30% more HP. Her third ability, it's kind of like an AoE, like Bunny, as you can see right here on your screen. The base damage is only 781, which is really low, unfortunately. The base radius is 5. The max range you get is 200, so one range mod will basically give you max range. It does give you a movement speed increase 20%, which is nice. It has an 8-second base duration, and when the enemies are in the circle, they're continuously taking 138 tick damage. Then her fourth ability, this is the one that does the most damage, Waste Disposal. You will have to consume your custom resources, and you have 2 stacks of it. Base damage is 6,000. The burst damage is 6,000. When you do use this, it will give you additional melee attack with your weapons. As you see, the skill power is by 2,500. The max stack is 12, and it does give you increased defense. As you can see, 50% defense, and that duration is 5 seconds. Increased defense. And then for her passive, this is like the most unique thing about her. So depending on how much toxin that you have on you, you're going to get a certain buff. So for the first buff, if you have your toxin below 30%, you will have a cooldown decrease of 20%, skill duration up by 30%, damage reduction by 5. If you have the toxin at 30% between 70%, you're going to get 60% increase HP, 80% defense increase amount, 5% damage reduction, and that will last for 8 seconds. And then if your toxic is over 70%, you will have melee weapon attack increased by 30%. Skill power will go up by 30%, and your damage reduction by 5%. And that would be 8-second duration. So once you have your toxin over 70%, you will have 15% damage reduction if all 3 of these are stacking. Now, the way to tell if one of these conditions is working is basically, if you see right here, screen with the red arrows pointing right here, this icon, basically each color is going to determine your toxins. The gray color determines your toxins at 0 between 30%. The yellow color determines your toxins at 30 between 70%. And the red one determines your toxic is at 70% or higher. So there was an update, and one of the updates it did was fix some stuff. And I see right here, we're talking about Harris, all right here. Fix an issue where Harris could obtain a normally high amount of defense through her Waste Disposal. They got rid of that, and that's the nerf that she got. They fixed an issue, which I guess was a bug or something. That amount of defense that she's not getting no more, it nerfed her damage output. Her bossing build is like non-existent now. Her mobbing build is still solid, it just wasn't hitting extremely hard as before, which I'll show you guys more and talk about it more in the mobbing build and the bossing build that we're about to go into right now. If you're curious about other stuff that they did in the patch notes, I'll have a link down below for you guys. Now for our first build, this is our mobbing build. It's also our Void Erosion Purge build, and it's also good for Sion Plains missions, 400% dungeons, Void Vessel, or even the new dungeon. Now before we go over everything, go ahead and get your screenshots. Now we will be using the Descendant mod safety training, and what this does is it's going to make our third ability give us a protector barrier and to our allies, and it's going to inflict a spray hazardous substance on hit enemies. And then our second ability, it's going to allow us to give protective barriers to our teammates as well, not just ourselves. And we're not using this just to, you know, be a support for our teammate. This is actually giving us our third ability more damage. As you can see right here, the base damage is 2700, correct? If I take this off, now the base damage is only 780. I prefer to use the new Descendant mod just so I can hit harder. Now, understand when you don't have this on, you had the AoE, but because of this trigger mod, we still have an AoE, which I'll show you right now. So I use my third ability, as you see, and I got this constantly, this toxic just spewing out of me. So I'm still doing an AoE to enemies. The AoE is still happening, even with the Descendant mod equipped. For our other mods, we are using one defense mod, one HP mod, one range mod, two cooldown mods, power increase, focus on fusion, fusion amplification, and toxic amplification. If you don't know why I'm using power increase instead of focus on toxic, power increase give us a separate damage increase. It's just like its own third tier damage bucket. As you can see right here, 65% skill power, 65% toxic skill power, and then 129 fusion skill power. That's three different damages increase that we are getting. If I would have went with focus on toxic, I wouldn't be getting none of this skill power. It'd just be this toxic skill power getting increased, and the higher it gets, the diminishing in return we're getting compared to the skill power. This is why we use power increase. We always use power increase for descendants who are non-crit. Now the reason why we're using shield charge, when you use a clash attack, it converts your own defense into a percentage and applies it as skill power. Our first ability and our second ability, clash attacks. So when we use this, we are going to do more damage based off our defense. And when we use our fourth ability, it's going to give us an increase in defense. As you can see right here, my defense is 73,000. I use my fourth ability once, my defense just went up. And that's going to allow us to do more damage with the shield charge. And this is why we're using increased defense to buff our shield charge. And we're rocking the HP mod to buff our Steel Vanguard trigger module. When we hit an enemy with a clash, our base damage, our skill power is going to be increased by the percentage of our max shield and max HP. Now for our reactor, it's up to you to decide. Do you want to run a tech reactor or a fusion reactor? And the reason why I say that, her fourth ability is fusion, but her first three are tech. So you gotta decide which one you want to increase. I want my first and second ability to hit harder, so I'm going with a tech reactor. I have skill cooldown and tech at the bottom of my stats. If you're going for fusion, you would want, you know, a fusion reactor, skill cooldown, and then fusion skill power boost ratio. For our components, we are using the 4-piece plague set just because we're getting 5% tech skill power, we are getting 43% toxic skill power, and then whenever we get custom resources, which is a custom resource character, we are getting an extra 21% toxic skill power. And then for our external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. This will be HP, and you would put defense on this. I just noticed that I don't have defense, which I'm going to change, you know, after the video and everything. For your weapon of choice, you can use any weapon you want, but if you do want to do a little bit more damage, you will go with the Secret Garden. The reason why, because of the unique ability. Whenever you activate a tech skill, you'll get pest control, which is a 50% trigger rate, up to 3 stacks. You get more skill power, so it's going to allow you to do more damage. Here are the stats and substats if you're curious. And then here are the mods and everything. You don't need any of these mods on because you're really not shooting the gun. You're just using it as a stat stick to, you know, boost your skill. But if you were going to use anything, I would put this on. When you get killed with your skill, this will proc if you had a gun equipped. You don't need to shoot the gun or get a kill with the gun. This will proc with just getting killed with your skill, so you can get yourself, you know, some movement speed increase. For our inversion reinforcement, I went with the arcade circulation just to help with our skill cooldown. When hit by shield particle reconfiguration, whenever I get hit by enemy, I'm gonna get more defense and max shield, which is gonna help our shield crash and our trigger module do more damage. And then I'm running this shield regenerate just for the algorithm. Our arcade tuning, this is the route I went with. And then for our mutant cell, I am using toxic chain catalyst notice when I hit enemies with my skill, their toxic resistance is going to go down, which allows to do more damage. And then I spent the last 2 points HP, and I just noticed I actually have 2 free stats, so we're going to put them right here. If you need a toxic and tech reactor or a toxic infusion reactor, check the pin down comment below. I will have a YouTube short showing you where y'all can farm one at. Now our next build is a bossing build. Unfortunately, this bossing build doesn't work. I tried to test it, make it work with the new Descendant mod, which is going to change her fourth ability, where it's going to do continuous laser like Bunny fourth ability. And if you don't know, Bunny can use her fourth ability to solo the Void Abyss boss under 2 minutes. Thing is, the difference between this ability and Bunny, if you notice right here, the cutting laser has a duration, and to use this, you had to consume your custom resource. As you see right here, I use my fourth ability, I'm losing custom resource, right? Well, the thing with Bunny is, on her fourth ability, there is no duration. It will last as long as possible, as long as you have custom resource. But because this has a duration, that's an issue, and you can't use it for bossing, because when the duration runs out, you have to start doing this to build up your custom resource instead of continuously damaging the boss. So unfortunately, we can't use this Transcendent as a bossing build. Now there is another bossing build. All full credit goes to Biscuit. I'll have her video YouTube link down below explaining the build. Unfortunately, this build got nerfed. Now I could be wrong. She's better at testing stuff with the numbers and everything that I am, but based off of the patch notes that y'all saw earlier, you can't get the same amount of defense. The way the build works is battering rams, it's going to reduce the enemy skill resistance defense down, right? So the more defense you have, the better it is. In Biscuit video, when you have about 900,000 defense, it basically reduces to 0, and you were able to, you know, kill Lava Citadel boss with Harris under 20 seconds. But with the nerf or fixing the bug to Harris, she can't get the 900,000 defense no more. As you can see right here, I have the same arcade tuning as her, I have the same mods as her, and my defense is at 109,000. When I use my fourth ability, it only goes up to 145. Doesn't go up to 900 like anymore. And here's a clip of me using her fourth ability before the patch that came out. Now, I don't know if this is intended. It is originally how her fourth ability was supposed to work. It wasn't supposed to give that much defense increase or not. But because of the patch note and them fixing the bug on Harris, her bossing build, her bossing dreams, it's over. Unless somebody come out with something crazy that I haven't been able to think of or test. As of right now, just a mobbing character. My honest review on Harris, I feel like she's a great character design. She's really fun to play with. Sucks that them fixing the bug reduced her damage, and she kind of like is nerfed now because of that. So you can't boss with her no more, but you can still mob with her, which is really fun to do. Overall, I think she's a great character design. I'm kind of curious on what they're going to come out with for season 4. Well, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully this guide helps you decide on if you want to use Descendant and which build to use and everything. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'll catch y'all in the next video.